as you and I are conversing, the St. Brown Brothers podcast is coming out right now. It's just dropped when Justin Fields is, I guess, going to explain whether he unfollowed the Bears on social media and whether this is a bellwether or any sort of canary in a coal mine. What are your 2 cents on the Justin Fields-Bears relationship as you and I are talking right now, Kevin?
Rich, I'm trying to remember which journalism class we learned follow who players follow on Twitter and Instagram, and then go watch the podcast on YouTube of the teammate to figure it out. So you might find out before me what Justin Fields has to say about it.
Right.
Just the relationship in general. I mean, the Bears love Justin Fields. They do. He's been a leader. He's had a great work ethic. His teammates love him. The city adores him. They happen to have the number 1 pick in a historically great quarterback draft, or what they, the people a lot smarter than me who evaluate this stuff think so. So it's a weird position to be in. I do believe that if they're going to trade him, if they're going to move on, Ryan Poles is going to do so with a lot of respect, a lot of deference to Justin Fields, and make this as clean as possible. But look, if you're Justin Fields, you're probably sitting there being like, hey, I've given my all to this team for a couple of years. The record hasn't been great. The results haven't been great. And a lot of that wasn't my fault. But I don't sense any animosity between player and organization at this point.
Well, I mean, they handled it last year very upfront with Justin Fields, and does appear that they told him very early on in the process, you're good. We're good. And I'm wondering, what have they told him already about the process this year? Because clearly the quarterback class this year requires more due diligence than last year's, even though last year's wound up producing one of the greatest unicorns we've seen at quarterback in C.J. Stroud. We just didn't know that at the time last year. I'm sure he must have. But what's your reporting on what the Bears have communicated to Fields at this point in time?
Kind of knowing what we know about Ryan Poles, I'm guessing he's been really transparent, maybe more transparent than you would expect in a situation. They probably said to Justin, hey, we love what you've done. We are in this rare, unique situation, and we need to research everything. And when we decide on a direction to go, we'll let you know. It's interesting, Rich, too, because teams do this all the time at other positions, right? Like, we see a team move on from a veteran. Look, the Bears just cut Eddie Jackson last week. Obviously, that's a cap situation, and with his age and all that, and everything's different at quarterback. But this happens a lot. Obviously, when it's quarterback, when it's someone like Justin Fields, when it's the number 1 pick, when it could be Caleb Williams, everything is exponential. So knowing Ryan Poles and the relationship he has with Justin Fields, throw Matt Eberflus into that conversation as well, I expect that it's been probably very upfront. And once they decide what they're going to do, they're probably going to tell him and keep him in the loop. As you said, that's what they did last year. So I expect it to have been the same.
Kevin Fishbain here on the Rich Eisen Show. Walk me through your statement. You said moments ago that fans in Chicago love Justin Fields, and how you think that might be part of the equation here.
Yeah, well, for one thing, Poles can't let it be part of the equation. And he can't let DJ Moore's adoration for Justin Fields be part of it either. And he said that. But I do think, it has created this polarization in town. You have these Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields debates on the radio. Rich, they've been going on since October. Every day we've been talking about it here. And this is the situation the Panthers put the Bears in, put the city in. When the Bears moved up to draft him, I had not seen anything like that in Chicago in terms of excitement about something the Bears did on or off the field, really, since they traded for Jay Cutler. Look, when they traded for Jay Cutler, everyone was like, oh my God, the Bears finally have a quarterback. They moved up for Justin Fields. They said, we did it. This is it. This is our guy. Finally, homegrown, incredible player at Ohio State. And that was the big difference in Justin Fields, I think, and Mitch Trubisky, was Justin Fields was an incredible college football player. And there were a lot of questions about Mitch coming out about what he did in college. Chicago fans had watched Fields play at Ohio State. They thought that this was the steal of the draft. He comes in his first preseason game and lit it up at Soldier Field. I mean, that place, I think it was the first time fans had been there in over a year or two because of the pandemic. So you just had this palpable sense. So all that has built up, and then we've all seen the flashes of brilliance that he's shown. So I think so many fans here, and you know this so well, Rich, Chicago is just so desperate to find that guy. And fans here so badly wanted it to be Justin Fields. And there's still some who believe he can be that guy if given the proper team, proper coordinator. So they love him. I think a lot of people have kind of come to terms with what is probably coming. But yeah, as far as the organization, they have to try to block that out and just figure out what is best for the team moving forward.
The Athletics' Kevin Fishbain covers the Bears right here on the Rich Eisen Show. And Kevin, we started this conversation with you saying, what journalism school did we learn to check on who a player follows on his social media or her social media, and then check on the podcast of his teammates as a comment, and that I would probably learn before you would because we're having a conversation. I have an earpiece in, and my crew, my producers are telling me that you are correct. I now know what Justin Fields told Equanimous St. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown on the St. Brown's podcast. He did, in fact, say he unfollowed the Bears on his social media, on his IG, but he also unfollowed the NFL as well because he wanted no NFL on his timeline while he was going on vacation because his timeline is filled with the conversation about what the Bears should do with the first overall selection. What's your thoughts upon me now informing you during this conversation, Kevin?
I love the breaking news. You've been doing this for a bit, Rich. You handled that smoothly.
Thank you, sir. Somewhat.
Yeah, that does it. Justin Fields, I mean, like horse blinders, right? I mean, he's just got to be just in it and not paying any attention. It's really interesting because last year he did the whole Super Bowl radio row car wash. He was there. He was very talkative.
He did our show. He did our show, and he was wide open about it. I can understand that, he just wouldn't want to go through it a second year, or this one's more real. You know what I mean? Like last year, he was in year 2, going into year 3. And, the conversation was, honestly, despite the way C.J. Stroud played, let's recall, it was essentially at the Super Bowl last year, a conversation about Fields or Bryce Young. That was the conversation. Now it's Fields or Caleb Williams. And he's also 3 years in, 39 starts in, and there's a 5th-year option conversation that's going to have to come up, and that's expensive. And that's maybe a little bit more real with Justin Fields right now,
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% it. I think he understands it. He gets it. He doesn't want to have to go through that, having to talk about it all the time. And I understand that if he wants to go on vacation, unplug, he doesn't want to have to see any of it. And look, I can barely put my phone away. I could barely stay off social media. So I can't imagine somebody, certainly in his generation, be able to just stay off it. So might as well just unfollow the Bears, unfollow the NFL. I remember, look, a couple of years ago, Dave Montgomery one day, like my phone's blowing up. Did you see Dave Montgomery unfollowed the Bears? And, we had to have a whole conversation with Dave Montgomery about that. The next day at Hallis Hall. This is the world we live in. But yeah, I think for Justin Fields, it's real. He gets it. He's understood this situation. He understood it's out of his hands. He was very open and showed a lot of great perspective at the end of the season. And as I said, a lot of things have not gone his way. Some of it has been out of his control. Some of it's been in his control, Rich. I mean, the fact of the matter is Justin Fields had a lot of opportunities late in games in the last 2 years to do what the C.J. Strouds do, to do what Patrick Mahomes has done over and over again. And maybe it's a high bar, and maybe he didn't have the perfect team around him, but so rarely was he able to come through in those clutch situations. And I think that is a big reason we're having these conversations that we are, and the Bears are very open to moving on and picking a different quarterback, number 1.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.